Color e-ink is in vogue, and Kobo has indeed leapfrogged Amazon. Again, to become the first major ebook vendor to also sell color e-ink e-readers. However, Kobo is not the only concession stand at this chromatic carnival fair, and another player in the e-reader industry, Pocketbook, has recently released its Era Color model. There are several features to compare these two e-readers on, but in this case, color is key. Now, this is a color comparison between the two models and not a full review. Let me know down in the comments if that's something you'd like to see in future. But before we get in touch with our inner colorists, I thought I'd throw in a quick unboxing to help you get to know both of these 7-inch screen e-readers a bit better. The Pocketbook Era Color comes in a very pleasing, compact, and touchable packaging design that does make you want to unbox and handle the device. It's definitely a more minimal aesthetic, but it succeeds nicely in mirroring the pleasing design of the device. Inside, you get the device itself, related paperwork, and the unit's USB-A to C charging and data transfer cord. One of the first things you'll notice about the Pocketbook Era Color is that it's mostly all screen. You do get small wedge-shaped power, page turn, and home buttons on the side. These are okay to press down on, but aren't the most convenient, as they are nearly flush with the rest of the e-reader and are quite narrow and small. The back of the device is textured plastic, which may give some added grip when in the hand, but seems to do little to actually secure the device against moving around on a table surface. In a nice addition, the Era Color does include a small onboard speaker of surprisingly decent quality. Although certainly lightweight enough to hold for reading sessions, the Era Color is a surprisingly hefty device and sports a weight that seems to broadcast a sense of being well built. And on to the Kobo Libra Colour. Kobo has again gone for a really colorful packaging feel with a decidedly playful vibe to it. This colorful aesthetic continues onto the sides of the box with the pleasing use of earth tones juxtaposed with splashes of color. One facet even mimics the closed appearance of a book on a shelf. It's kind of neat. I really liked the extra colors Kobo included on the inside flap of the box's lid. This was a really nice touch. The final elements tying the packaging together are the color match palm fronds, which also appear on the screen of the device itself. Altogether, I think this packaging is really aesthetically pleasing. In the box, you get the device, paperwork, and a USB-A to C charging and data transfer cable. In contrast to the Pocketbook Era Color, the Kobo Libra Colour features a sunken screen which is not flush with the surrounding bezel of the device. The Libra Colour itself is also very lightweight and feels nice to hold. The back of the device is textured with an almost floral pattern which adds a bit of grip. Interestingly, the power button for the device is hiding out on the back of the device as well. The page turn buttons are large, easy to find, and fairly easy to press down on. With their front lights off, both devices are very dark to the naked eye. You could conceivably read on them in direct sunlight, but you'd need a pretty bright day. I've had to employ just about every filming light I have just to film this. This is due to the e-ink Kaleido 3 color e-ink panels being used on both devices. They work by essentially using the same black and white e-ink microcapsules that make up normal e-ink screens, but Kaleido 3 panels add a color filter array made up of many extremely fine, semi-transparent dots of color placed over top of these capsules. This essentially allows the base black and white capsules to control how bright or how dark the different colors in the grid above them are, and that's what creates the colors you see on the screen. However, while the color filter array is responsible for creating the color seen on the device, it also blocks out more of the light which can hit the screen, and hence the much darker appearance compared to normal black and white e-ink panels. But on to the color comparison. Here we see the same PDF document being displayed on both e-readers. The Pocketbook Era Color has built-in color adjustment options within the settings menu, but here we're using the default color settings you get on PDFs out of the box. You can probably notice a pretty big difference between the two. The Kobo Libra Colour presents a slightly more muted color palette, but in my opinion produces a much more photorealistic result. The Pocketbook Era Colour, on the other hand, produces an arguably more vibrant image, but I'd say shading, image detail, and photorealism do suffer quite a bit. This difference between both e-readers has generally persisted in my tests. As you can see when comparing the renderings of these images on the device to how they're intended to look when viewed on a computer display, neither e-reader is a perfect match for image fidelity. The Pocketbook generally displays more vibrancy and color, but its images usually lack much of the excellent shading and detail displaying on the Kobo Libra Colour. As I mentioned before, while the Kobo is generally locked to displaying color in a certain way, you can adjust how the Pocketbook Era Colour displays color images. This is a nice ability, and you can get some significantly different results by adjusting these settings. Here's about the best I managed to adjust the Era Color screen so that its image looked closer to the Kobo Libra Colour. However, in my experience, the impact of these adjustments seems limited, and I was never able to exactly match the detail or shading excellence on images that the Kobo Libra Colour produces. To give you an example of how this difference in color rendition can affect your reading experience, this image of a beautiful underwater vista is a good example. This is how the image appears in the original document when viewed on a computer, and here it is alongside both of the Kaleido 3 color e-readers. While I'd argue both are generally pleasing to look at, this is one time where the not quite right default color settings on the Pocketbook could let you down. While the Era Color displays most of the same details in the image as the Kobo, look closely at the top right-hand corner of the image, and you can see that while the Kobo Libra Colour fairly faithfully depicts a tower of kelp or other underwater plant in the background, the Era Color barely suggests its presence at all. You can attempt to dial in a different color rendition on the Era Color, but while this can improve some aspects to be closer to the Kobo Libra Color's image, then other aspects, which might have shown up better before, start to look worse. This isn't the only time that the Era Color's rendition essentially changed the image being displayed to be different from what was intended. During another test, I kind of felt like I had accidentally stumbled into the Twilight Zone when I turned the page and what looked like a different version of the image popped up on the Era Color's screen. What's going on here? Why is Pocketbook displaying an extra bank of cloud and the Kobo isn't? I have no explanation for this. I've never seen it happen ever before. This is just This is weird. It was the same page with the same text, but the clouds in the image looked to be entirely different shapes on both e-readers. So how could this be? I eventually came to the conclusion that this must be another manifestation of how the Era Color seems to have less nuanced shading abilities than the Kobo Libra Colour. So this kind of color inaccuracy could lead to either missing out on important details in images or displaying the image so incorrectly that when perceived by a user, the image content is manifestly different from what was intended. One other issue was that sometimes the flush screen on the Pocketbook Era Color did seem to dilute the clarity of both text and colors being displayed. While we're talking about text clarity, the Kobo Libra Colour, almost universally, seemed to display crisper text with generally better contrast than on the Pocketbook Era Color. I will say that despite the apparent limitations of the device in terms of shading and color accuracy, it is cool that you can experiment with different color renditions on the Pocketbook Era Color. However, although this isn't obvious, one can also experiment with different color profiles on the Kobo Libra Colour. To do this, you need to go to the Libra Colour's home screen, then tap on the search icon at the top of the screen, and then type Dev Mode On with no spaces and search this. This is short for Developer Mode On. Typing this in and searching it will return no results for the search. But then go to the Settings menu, then to Device Information, and then swipe down to the second page in this section and tap on Developer Options. Then scroll through these or use the page turn buttons on the side of the device until you find the CFA Mode setting. And then tap on this and select your color setting of choice from the list to see how the screen looks running that color setting. There are 9 of these to choose from, and here they are for a side-by-side shot comparing it with the default my unit came set to. While there is some variation, personally I wasn't blown away by any of these other color modes. I'm personally already very impressed with the default color settings on the Kobo Libra Colour. I also wouldn't really recommend even activating this hidden developer mode unless you're really unhappy about the color settings on your unit. This mode is hidden for a reason, and changing other, more critical settings for your e-reader by accident could happen pretty easily if you tap the wrong setting control. The last thing I want to focus on in this color comparison is kind of a strange fact I've observed about the Pocketbook Era Colour. Oddly, I've found that the screen on that device gets closest to the color renditions seen on the Kobo Libra Colour when you turn off the Pocketbook device. Yes, you heard that right. You see, when you power off the Pocketbook Era Colour, there's a brief moment where the device turns off, but the front light remains on for a moment after this before going dim. It's in these brief moments that I actually think the device displays some of its most accurate color renditions. So the colors and shading on the Pocketbook Era Colour seemed much closer to those on Kobo's device when you turn the device off. Therefore, to my mind, this suggests that the Era Colour could display colors and shading in a much more nuanced and true-to-life way, but that something in the software settings when the device powers on just tends to supercharge the colors at the expense of realism and shading. This also suggests that Pocketbook could improve this via software updates. Although the big question I have is whether they will. But you know what? Here's hoping they do. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a digital like? And subscribe to encourage more Inktelligent videos like this one. Why is Pocketbook displaying an extra bank of cloud and the Kobo isn't? I have no explanation for this. I've never seen it happen ever before. This is weird right here, and I can't explain this. It's extremely weird. In fact, it's supposed to be the same page. I'm not seeing that. That's really weird. I have no explanation for that at all. I've never seen anything this weird, I think, in all my time covering e-readers. This is weird. Weirdsville population weird.